Hi, this is Natalia Cardona with ASVAB Success, and today on day 7 of our ASVAB Math Challenge, I want to talk to you about something that is incredibly important, which is simply to practice. Now, I know you're probably like, really? This is our video for today? It's not something more helpful like algebra or geometry or simple interest? While all those subjects are very helpful, believe it or not, the most helpful thing that you can do with math is practice. So I've been teaching ASVAB for 12 years now. And in those 12 years, I have met lots of students, hundreds of students. And a lot of them, I'll ask them, okay, so what are you doing to practice for the ASVAB? How are you studying for the ASVAB? They tell me they're watching YouTube videos. They tell me that they're doing some kind of book. They're reading a book. But they're not actually practicing. And these are usually students that have taken the ASVAB several times and have not been able to pass it. So what does that tell you? That tells you that just watching videos and just reading things is not really going to help you. What's going to help you the most is actually practicing. So in this video, what I want to do is I want to give you tips on how to practice so that your practice is actually helping you. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and get started. So here are a couple tips for how to practice better. Number 1, find as much practice as you can. This means go out there, Google ASVAB like practice tests. You can get a book, you can join a course, get as much material to practice with as you can. This is not stuff that you can read through. These are actual ASVAB questions, okay? You want to do these. You want to do as many of them as you can. How often should you be practicing? As often as you can. A great way of doing this is either to do maybe an hour or 30 minutes a day, depending on what your schedule looks like, or if it's easier for you to do 3 hours in one day, then that's up to you. You do what works for you, okay? Now, the next thing that I tell people is, aside from practicing as much as you can, when you practice, you want to look over your questions. What does that mean? That means that once you practice and you finish a quiz or a test or whatever it is that you're doing, actually go over the questions that you got wrong. What are you going to do with these questions? Well, I'll tell you. Number 1, go over the questions you actually got wrong. Or I guess since we're doing 1, 2, and 3, this could be 2A, okay? Go over the questions that you got wrong. Actually look at them and wonder, why did you get them wrong? 2B, look up similar questions and figure out how to do them correctly. Maybe you can look up an explanation in a YouTube video, you can ask in a group that you belong to, or if you belong to a course, you can ask your instructor. In my course, I have a lot of students come in with questions that they didn't know how to do, even if it's not from a practice test I provide them with, and we review it together. The important thing is that you actually figure out how to do the question that you got wrong. You need to learn how to do it correctly, okay? If you already know how to do it correctly, that leads us to 2C. Figure out if there's something that you're doing wrong when you're reading the question, if you didn't read the question through all the way. That will let you know either you don't know how to do this particular kind of question, or you're rushing through the question and you're not reading the question carefully. So understanding that and making sure you're doing things right, you're reading through things properly, is important to you doing well in the math sections of the ASVAB and practically in any section of the ASVAB. And 2D, finally, once you go over these questions, once you figure out how to do things that you were doing wrong, how to do them correctly, or slow down and read questions properly, continue to practice, okay? Now that we're done with tip number 2, let's move on to tip number 3. And tip number 3 is very simple. Time yourself. It's not enough to just practice and take your sweet time doing one question. Anybody can do a question in 4 or 5 minutes, okay, maybe 10 minutes, but not everyone can do a question in 30 to 90 seconds, and that is your goal, okay? It's important to not rush through questions. Please don't rush through the questions. You're probably going to get things wrong if you do, but what you want to do is work towards improving your time organically, which means with practice you'll get faster, but keep an eye on the clock so you know how to pace yourself. Okay, now that we've gone over how to make sure that you are practicing properly, and you're making that practice work for you, check out the link below for an AFQT practice test. It has the 4 main sections for the ASVAB that will get you that score that you need to get into the military, okay? Use that practice, make sure that you take your time and that you read the questions carefully, but make sure that you're also timing yourself. Thank you so much and good luck.